I would enter the surf contest, and on the breaks, China would ask me, "Hey, Kelly Boy, can you get your ukulele and we got a microphone set up? Would you mind jamming in between the sessions and stuff?" And I goes, "Oh, shoot!" So I would go surf my heat, and I come back under the banyan tree and start playing my ukulele and start singing. And then I soon realized that singing was, I think I would get a little bit more further in life my ukulele and singing than I was a surfer,
Well, that's a clip from today's interview with Kelly Boy DeLima from the band Kapena. And on today's episode, we talk all about how this amazing band started on the beaches of Waikiki. He talks about what life was like growing up on the west side and how he met his wife from the east side. That was a great story to hear. And also just about what life was like growing up on Oahu. He offers some great tips for people visiting the islands as well. So you don't want to miss this one. Let's go ahead and let's jump right on in.
Aloha. Welcome to Hawaii's Best. Here, you'll learn what to know before traveling as we discover Hawaiian culture, local businesses, and the experiences that make Hawaii one of the most incredible places in the world. And now, your host, Brian Murphy.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have been listening for a while, I just want to say thank you. It means the world. If you would go ahead and just take 5 seconds and leave a review and a rating. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts right now, that would be super helpful. And I would be so appreciative of that. Well, today, like I mentioned, we are talking with Kelly Boy DeLima from the island of Oahu, and he is a founder and leader of the group Kapena. His musical journey began in 1984 when he competed with his two Tongan brothers in brown bags. And we talk all about what that is. It's such a cool story behind that, and how Kapena has been such an incredible presence on the islands, but also how their music has reached across the globe. Kelly Boy has toured all over the world, spreading that Kapena music that fans first fell in love with. Kelly Boy has been bringing that feel-good island music to the world for over 30 years. His genuine personality, captivating stage presence, and timeless music has made him one of the hardest working musicians in the business. We unpack all of that and more in today's interview. But enough of my yakking. Let's go ahead and we're going to talk story with Kelly Boy DeLima. Kelly Boy, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on Hawaii's Best today. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great, Brian. Thank you. And yes, things are beautiful today in Hawaii. We got a little bit rain over here on the Kaneohe side, but it's in the 80s and, all is well.
That's amazing. Have you always lived on the east side?
I'm originally from Waianae, Makaha. Those beautiful beaches out there in Makaha. I grew up out there surfing at Makaha Surfing Beach. And there's a place that we call Cabanas or Turtle Beach. We used to body surf there. And so I grew up all along that coast on the west side. My dad's family are all from there. Had a great time growing up on the west side. It's beautiful. And we used to camp down there from there's a beach called Pray for Sex. There's Makua, and there's just all these different beautiful areas. There's Yokohama down all the way towards the end as you go into Kaena Point. And as kids, we would go all the way around Kaena Point on my dad's old Datsun truck. We would wind up on the opposite side on Mokuleia and Haleiwa on the North Shore. So it was a great time out there in Makaha and Waianae growing up. And then I met my wife in my 19, 20 years old, and we got married. And she's from Waimanalo now. She's from the east side. Over the Ko'olau. So
the Capulets and the Montagues.
Right. East meets west, And she said, I'm not moving that far away from my family and Waimanalo. And so we kind of compromised, and I've been here in Kaneohe now for about 30 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
You explained a little bit what life was like growing up on Hawaii, but maybe a little bit more story about just kind of growing up, running around.
Especially for, the visitors and those that come to the islands. here in Hawaii, surfing is like a culture thing. Music is a culture thing. It's stuff that have been passed down. We've seen our parents and our grandparents, you know what I mean, either be fishermen or watermen or, all sorts of, things that we do here in Hawaii. A lot of kids, play sports, baseball, basketball and stuff, but most of the local kids, especially you'll find it on the outer islands, Molokai, Maui, the Big Island, the Big Island kids, they grew up picking opihi, which is little, shells of love that grow on the sides of our rocks, and really a delicacy. I mean, you gotta be very experienced, very watchful when you're doing that kind of thing. But, those kind of things. So I grew up just like that, going to around Mokuleia, like I was saying, and in my dad's Datsun truck from Waianae, and we would go to Mokuleia and go right onto the point of Kaena Point, where there's a big lighthouse out there, and we would pick vana. Vana is like this sea urchin. It's a sea urchin with the the pricklies, and in the vana is it's like a delicacy too. So we would do that as kids. We would go fishing. We would camp down there at Kaena Point in Mokuleia, on the Mokuleia side of a Dillingham field. It's actually where the gliders take off out there on Dillingham.
Right.
I remember as a kid growing up out there with my grandpa and grandma, and mom and dad would leave us for the whole 3 months. That's when all schools would get off during summertime, and every school would be off for 3 months. There wasn't no, year-round school or where you go back to school this, after a couple of, no, this was all Hawaii was like, get off at the same time. And I remember my father-in-law, and my grandfather was pure Portuguese. My grandmother was pure Hawaiian. So I would get two sides of the food, you know what I mean? The food, them chefing it up down at the beach. And mom and dad would actually come to the beach, and then they would leave all the kids with our, all the cousins, and they would go to work. And then after work, they come back to the beach, and we would camp for 3 months, so we would be fishing, we would be crabbing. And I remember my dad, them coming, and they would go night diving quite a bit. And I remember them going out one time and night diving, and my dad bringing back this big white eel. I mean, the eel was there, it was about as big as like my leg, huge eel. And I was like, what the heck are we going to do with this, And my grandfather cooked it in this vinegar style, this Portuguese way called Vinha Dois.
Okay.
And, in Hawaii, we get all these different cultures and flavors and
there's a whole
things that
fusion.
we do. It's just, it's just one big melting pot, Brian.
Right. Yeah.
And so my grandfather cooked, this was the best. I still can taste. I was a kid, and I still can taste it in my mouth. But that's the kind of stuff that we would do, surfing.
Takes you back.
Yeah, it takes me back. Surfing and diving and watching my father them go diving and just growing up, that life. And it's great times in Hawaii. And local people, they love to share the culture. They love to. I know we have plenty of family that come from the mainland and stuff, and they're just they just want to soak in everything,
Right.
It's that and the other. So it's a good life here.
Yeah. Now, what about music? Was that modeled growing up as well? Like, where did that come from?
Well, the whole music thing started in intermediate school.
Okay.
And it kind of was linked to my surfing. And, I thought I was going to be a pro surfer when I was growing up. I was this skinny little kid that was, after I left Waianae, I moved to the Kaimaki area, and it was in intermediate high school time. And I grew up on Waikiki Beach. I became a Waikiki Beach boy. I would run for all the uncles. Hey, if you needed coffee or you needed one drink, I was your man, Anyway, I gave surf lessons and took people out on the canoe outrigger, in Waikiki Beach. And I lived that life. And that's pretty much how I learned. I had beach boys, friends, kids that were all growing up with me. James Willis, was a dear friend from the Big Island, and another kid that I grew up with, Kunia Godera, who was a grandson of our legendary Gabby Pahinui from the Pahinui family. He was the one that really inspired me and his abilities on that ukulele. But it was during that time running around on the beach, I would take my ukulele, I would give them to one of the beach boys on Waikiki Beach, like Ako Imai, Imai Kalani Yanni had a group called Intangibles here. They did the four-part Hawaiian harmonies and the
Beautiful.
old surfer style, and it was just, so I would give them my ukulele and I'd be watching the chords. Anyway, China Uemura, who organized these big China's surfboard meets, longboard meets, would put on these surf contests down in Waikiki. I would enter the surf contest, and on the breaks, China would ask me, "Hey, Kelly Boy, can you get your ukulele and we got a microphone set up? Would you mind jamming in between the sessions and stuff?" And I goes, "Oh, shoot!" So I would go surf my heat, and I come back under the banyan tree and start playing my ukulele and start singing, and then I soon realized that singing was. I think I would get a little bit more further in life my ukulele and singing than I was a surfer,
So about like what year was this around?
Oh, that was in the 80s. That was in the 80s. Yeah. Yeah, definitely early 80s.
So things were really starting to kind of build up.
Yeah, so I graduated in 84. So yeah, that was around the intermediate and kind in the 80s, definitely. Yeah.
And it was 85 you started Kapena?
85, I started the Kapena that I would go on for the next 20 years with.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe unpack that a little bit. How'd that start?
So in 84, I entered the Brown Bags to Stardom, which was the equivalent to like American Idol or The Voice, the Hawaiian version of American Idol. And it was high schools that competed against each other. And the finalists would compete at the Waikiki Shell.
Oh, okay.
I tell you what, Brian, this thing was loaded. We never had the internet. We didn't have any, we couldn't download somebody's song or you go to Tower Records and you buy your CD or cassette.
Cassette, yeah.
But I'm not as old as 8 tracks. So you get your cassette and man, I tell you, it was just phenomenal. It was a phenomenal turnout. That Waikiki Shell, you'd have 10,000 people in the Waikiki Shell and another 4,000 outside. Just listening and hanging out and tailgating and potlucking and doing all of that stuff. And it was huge. And I entered with a couple of friends of mine from school in 84. And we were against that year, the guys that won was Na Hoku Hanohano.
Oh, yeah.
3 girls. They did their original and they just blew everybody out the park. And it was awesome. But that was my first time entering the Brown Bags. And then the next year, I entered with my group with the 2 Tongan brothers, Tiva and Tiva.
Okay.
That was in 85. But they had a elimination process, which was before we got to the shell, before you just win for your school and you go straight. You would win at your school and then you'd go straight to the shell. But the next year, we won for the school. And then the top 3 from our school would compete another high school top 3, and they called it Hawaii High. And we didn't make it out of that round to go to the Waikiki Shell, but we went other places after that in our career. It was that was a launch pad of, stuff, the groundwork. And then we went on and traveled and won, countless, Na Hoku Hanohano, which is equivalent to the Hawaiian Grammys for those of you guys that don't know. And I got a couple in the back there, all in my,
I see that.
A bunch of them in the back there. Just contemporary group of the year, album of the year, and on different, years and stuff. And, it's just been a wonderful journey. The music has been a wonderful, of course, Dan went for about 20 years. So for the past, I would say 10 to 15 years now, I've been performing with my children, which has been another, like another season and another chapter in my life, which has been, I think, the biggest blessing for me.
I bet.
Like I was telling you earlier, you guys, about culture. Here in Hawaii, culture is really important. It's stuff that, the language is what is passed on. Our language is not something that we just, figured out. It's just a cultural thing, just like the music. So My dad taught me, I'm teaching my kids, and now my grandkids are performing too with us, It's just a circle of life, and to Hawaiians, that's very important. It's our culture. So the music, surfing, everything to do that is to do with ohana. And I guess the ohana is, the family unit is the biggest, bond here in the islands, as you well know. So yeah, the kids are carrying on. They're carrying on the legacy, and you know, the beautiful thing is I get to sit back and still breathing, and I'm alive, and I'm enjoying every moment of this.
That's incredible. You hit it on the head. As you were talking, the word, this legacy just kept popping into my head. And it just must be super cool seeing, you know, your family carrying this on and seeing some of the fruits,
Right.
you know, out of these, you know, how many years, you know?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It is.
It's one thing to pick up the ukulele, any instrument, and like, hey, I think I have this talent I've been getting. I should, you know, refine it and press into it.
Mm-hmm.
But then on the other side, there's this whole songwriting journey. And maybe talk a little bit about that. When did you discover, or what was the songwriting process like for you, or what is it like for you currently?
Well, I'll talk about a song that I wrote. It's called Kalena Ku. I wrote this for my daughter.
Mm.
I kind of shot myself in the foot writing this one because now the other two kids are like, wow, Dad, where's our song?
Gee, thanks, Dad. We know his favorite.
Thanks a lot, Dad. You don't really know who the favorite is. But it just, you know what? This, you know, a lot of people think that you just sit down at a table and you just start writing. And normally that's what it is. You know, it's about experiences, and it's about, you know, things that you've been through life. And, you know, basically music is like, I mean, I'm sure I can answer for everybody. It's like the soundtrack of our life, right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you can remember when, I remember when Rock the Boat, Don't Rock the Boat, Baby. That was in the 70s. I was in Waianae, you know what I mean? And, you know, that's the kind of songs that come up and it's like, boom, you're right back to
Exactly.
that time. It's like, I remember that. where I was walking and where I was. And anyway, so it was like that. But in this song in particular, yeah, well, that's the process of songwriting, I presume. But in this time particular, I was dreaming, and I dreamt the melody, and I woke up from my sleep, and I came to the table over here that I'm sitting on, same living room. I've been here for, Kalena was 3 months old when we moved into this house. She's 28 now. She was 9 months old when I wrote the song Kalena Ku. So it was right here. Came to this table, and I started writing the lyrics, and it just came, the melody, everything just coming, funny faces, I just try, you know, and it's like,
yeah.
And that was like a very unique process, I guess, of the songwriting for me with that one. And that thing became, you know, I mean, honest to God, Brian,
Yeah.
we just did a baby party. You know, in Hawaii, we celebrate baby parties for years.
Oh, yeah.
You know, baby luau's are very, very
It's a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing. You know, it's a huge thing. Everybody has a baby luau, and it's because of, you know, another cultural thing. If
Right.
the kids in old Hawaii would make it for a year, was a celebration, you know, because anyway, I won't get, you know.
Sure. Yeah. You can fill in the blank. Yeah.
Anyway, so the baby luau's are very important to local people. So I want to say maybe a year or two ago, I wrote this song 28 years ago, guys. You know what I mean? So they hired us to come and play for their baby luau, and the baby's name was Kalena Ku. You know what I mean? And there's so many Kalenas named after, you know, the song, after all of these years. And I'm like, what a timeless thing, yeah, songwriting is. You know, It's like, you know, I mean, I wrote that song 28 years ago, and people are still naming their kids Kalena, and they want to, you know what I mean? They want to, you know, hire you so that they can play for their brand new babies, you know, birthday party, Kalena, you know, and it blows me away how much an effect music has on our lives and everybody's life in general.
Yeah, it definitely speaks to the soul in ways that words can't sometimes.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah. And, you know, I tell the kids that we have a responsibility, you know, when we're up there performing. That's why it always comes from a good place, you know, when we perform, because we have a responsibility because, you know, I mean, we are the soundtrack for a lot of people's lives. And you know what I mean? I mean, I get it all the time. Bro, this one kid told me, bro, Kelly Boy, I remember he sent me a message on Facebook. He said, I remember when the first Kapena cassette came out, me and my friend, we heard about this group on KCCN radio, and we caught the bus from Haleiwa all the way to Ala Moana Shopping Center just so that we could get the Kapena cassette tape. And bro, we had them and we carried it all the way back on the bus back to Haleiwa and popped it in. And, you know, countless stories. And I'm like, bro, thank you. I said, bro, I'm forever indebted, bro. You know, thank you. You know, and you don't realize how much the music touches people. You know, like I tell the kids all the time, we have a responsibility to keep it up, keep going, and keep singing it from the heart. You know, totally.
Now playing with the kids, maybe going back even a little further, what was that transition like? You know, doing the family band.
It was like a change of duty. It's like you know, things kind of fell into place. There was no animosity. We never ever broke up with my original group. It's just, you know, people moved on, you know.
Yeah.
You know, life goes on, you know. Even with my kids, they're all grown up. They're getting married and I have grandkids now, and it's like their life has moved on. You know, I'm trying to pull them back and say, hey, you know, life moves on. And that's what happened with the two brothers, you know.
Yeah.
And Tiva, you know, in Tonga, even the Tongans, you know, they're Polynesians too. So they have a heavy culture, which is heavily placed on the oldest child, especially in Tongan families. You know, when the kupuna or the parents get older, their responsibility is to take care of that. And kind of, so Tiva, what had happened was he just kind of moved into that, you know, that place in life where he had to take care of mom and dad and move into that responsibility. And they're heavy in the church, Tongan church as well. He just had to step up. You know, and the music, you know, he couldn't really keep going with how we were going about things. And it kind of just worked out really cool because Kapena joined in as our keyboard player. And then Timo got married and he moved back to Tonga to go help the parents out too, which was a guitar player. And then Kalena Ku came in. She jumped on keyboards. Kapena moved back to drums. And then, you know, but I taught only these kids during this time, you know, they was into drum lessons, saxophone lessons, trumpet lessons, drumming, piano lessons. They took classical piano since they were 5 years old. So they all play piano. They all can drum. Kalena went to drum lessons too. So Kalena jumps on the drums too. I don't know. It was just, I like to say divine appointment for them to be in that office that they're holding now, is carrying on the next generation of Kapena. And it's just been such a great, I cannot believe it, you know?
Yeah.
You know, like the piano teacher would call me up. She was, you know, Kelly boy, there are families that come to me and they have multiple children too. And maybe one of them, you know, got some talent, maybe two, but all of your kids, you know, she's like, all of your kids just, what I mean, great. The guy, but you know, to be honest, Brian, it was a grueling time because, bro, I was like this drill sergeant, you know what I mean? It's like general daddy, you know what I mean? Like, get on your lessons. And while the other kids were outside playing kickball and playing, you know, whatever they're doing outside, these guys was in the house, you know, practicing. Okay, you got 45 minutes on the drum. Right, 45 minutes. And then when you guys are done with your 45, everybody switch. You know? So, you know, they worked hard for it. They really did. And when the time came, like you said, we transitioned, it was all, you know, as we say in the islands, pono. It was all good, you know, like when one hand just slipping into one glove. And, you know, the kids in Hawaii, you know, and I stress the culture thing and the ohana thing. If I chose any other group members to fill the shoes of my original group, Kapena wouldn't be here today. But the locals look at you and they says, oh my gosh, that's Kelly Boy and all of his kids.
Right.
They can get, because it's all about ohana, like I told you here in Hawaii, you know, right? They get so charged. You know, people come up to me daily. Every day I get some kind of, and it's like, wow, what a blessing to perform with your children and to, you know, to do this with the kids. And I really believe that that's what's taken us, you know, from the 80s, and now we're here and we're still continuing on, you know.
Because each one of them in their own right is an amazing and accomplished musician.
Totally. Yeah.
Obviously, these huge shoes of, you know, Kapena.
Right.
But,
to fill, you know,
to fill, right? But they're amazing musicians in their own. I mean, they work. You can definitely tell they earned it.
Sure did. And, you know, they worked really hard for it. And they might be scarred a little bit because of...
Scars are okay.
But they're okay. They're good. They're good. They're good standing citizens in the community. So
you perform about, was it like 6 nights a week?
Most of the time, 7.
Oh, 7. Okay. Wow.
The Sundays, normally we take off, for church and stuff. But if you get, we're also praise and worship, leaders in our church. So we have that responsibility too. It's not really a responsibility. It is a joy, to get into church and to do that. But, it's one of our other jobs is to do that. But, my father-in-law is a pastor. I married a pastor's daughter, and my father-in-law always used to say, something, if you're working and you have work, it's a blessing. And if you get work, especially as an entertainer, please do your job. God wants to bless you, And so we wouldn't shy away from, oh no, we don't work. We're Christian. We don't work on Sundays. And my father-in-law would encourage it. And he says, you got a job. It's a blessing. Recognize it. You know what I mean?
That'll preach.
So, some of the times, we would, a lot of times we get gigs on a Sunday in the evening. But so we worked in Waikiki. We work in Waikiki. To answer your question, Mondays we're at the Halekulani Hotel. Tuesdays we're at the Royal Hawaiian Hotel. Wednesdays I do a solo thing. But all of my kids, remember now, during the week, we all do solo. So Kapena plays the grand piano at the Moana on Wednesdays. I do a solo at the Surf Jack. Kalena does a solo piano gig at Mangiamo, some Italian restaurant. And then Thursdays, the Royal, I think Thursdays, the Moana.
Beach? Okay.
Yeah, the beach bar.
Yeah.
At the Moana. So that was our steadies. We're doing the Sheraton Waikiki on Fridays, but then they changed the times on that. So about maybe a year or two now, we've been out of that one on Fridays, but we get casuals, like baby parties or a wedding or something on a Friday, or even we perform at the different restaurants or clubs, different venues. And then we do just this huge bunch of like baby parties to weddings to 5th birthday parties, anniversary parties.
So from the humble environment of your living room and streaming to, millions of people to playing at the Shell, I'm just super curious, playing across the world and even in Waikiki, is there like one experience, one performance that you go back to and you're like, that was that one night that was just magical? Is there one performance, or is there like a season or multiple performances that just kind of flood your mind?
Yeah. There's so many, when you say that, there's so many things that come up, emotions and feelings and stuff that come up in my mind. There's been so many wonderful experiences,
Yeah.
I remember a lot of them were at the Waikiki Shell. It was a FM 100 birthday bash. And, we started that off with the old school guys, Kapena, Israel Kamakaviwawole, Willie K. And, Willie K just passed away. Israel has passed. And I remember standing up on stage, Roland Casamaro. It was me, Willie, Roland, and Israel. We're on the stage. And I had this old sketchy little video that I still have of the 4 of us up there on stage at the Waikiki Shell. Those are high points, definitely.
Yeah.
And look, all 3 of them have gone on home and they're all jamming in heaven now. There was one year at the Waikiki Shell when FM 100, which was the radio station here for those of you visitors out there tuning in, FM 100 was the radio station that hosted these big called birthday bash, and they lasted for, I think, 22, 23 years. And we played for everyone, all 22 of them or 23 of them. But one year in particular, this was before cell phones and before, it was the days when people only had lighters and, no cell phone lights on the camera and stuff. They were giving away these flashlights, these little flashlights that, you turn on and, hang at the end of your key. And, if you lost your, so it was, I think they gave like the first 5,000 people that came to the gate. And you're talking about 10,000 people that would attend these concerts, So the first 5,000, so I'm thinking, I'm backstage and I'm like, man, all these people got these lights. And it's like, what do I do? It had to have been, I would say maybe 6 years into the birthday bash. Maybe I did 6 of them already. I thought to myself, what could I do to incorporate these lights and stuff? So I sang Danny's song, which is, we recorded it also, but it was a Loggins and Messina tune. Even though we ain't got money, I'm so in love. And, you know,
Money.
everybody knows that song, right? So I started off this thing. And when we came to the chorus, even though we ain't got money, I yelled on the mic for the technician to shut down the whole house, you know, the lights. And Brian, dude, these guys was flashing there. I said, turn on the lights. And the whole Waikiki show was lit.
Oh, man.
And you know what? Long story short, after that, every year we had to do Danny's song. And, you know, and then it evolved from those lights to lighters. And then it evolved to cell phones, you know, going
Right.
crazy. And that was one of many, just so many. 35 years I've been, you know, doing this, and it's been a wonderful journey, you know, to say the least.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
All those years, and you've seen Waikiki transform and re-evolve, and you've seen many people, you know, come and go.
Yeah.
If someone's coming to the islands, maybe for the first time or year after year visiting, what would be something that you would want them to know coming to the islands, just kind of being prepared?
To come wanting to learn something about the islands and our culture.
Yeah.
Because it's very rich. You know, our culture is very rich. You have it right there in Waikiki. You know, surfing is something that I always suggest, you know, because it's, you know what I mean? The Lukahana Moku and our kupuna, you know, that was their life, you know what I mean? Surfing in the Waikiki beach life. And then, you know, especially going around the island and getting the experiences of everything culturally. Iolani Palace is a good one, you know,
to
learn about, you know, history and, you know, our queen, Liliu Kalani. And, you know, it's just a lot of rich heritage. So dive into it, you know, even like the Arizona Memorial, you know, that is a lot of history too. You know, my father-in-law, who just passed away last year, I would sit with him. I'm married to his daughter for 32 years. So I knew him from my 20s, and he was a little boy when Pearl Harbor happened, you know, and he actually waved at the planes going over. He lived where the Honolulu airport is. And a little fun fact for you guys that not too many people know, but that area was called Damien Track. And it was track homes and it was right where the Honolulu International or Daniel K. Inouye Airport, I stand corrected now, is. Right. It was main track. So right next to the Honolulu Airport is Pearl Harbor, right next door. So he was a little boy. He was about 6, 7 years old. And he remembers those Zeros, you know, coming over, you know, right over their house. And they were low. He said they were low. And all of a sudden, you know, these bombs went off and fire. He said they saw fire a mile up, you know, just going, you know, and just chaos and, you know, sirens blowing. And it makes me, you know, it takes me like to another place when these old timers, you know, they tell you. So like I said, getting back to my point, a lot of history over there.
Yeah.
And, you know, it even has a deeper respect for me when you hear it from the mouth of somebody that experienced it, like my father-in-law, you know, that kind of stuff. And go around and enjoy, even the ex-president Obama comes here and vacations here and definitely tries out loves to eat our favorite shave ice, or shave ice and Matsumoto's in Haleiwa. And just, you know what is unreal about Hawaii, and I like people to know, especially visitors, is the food. The food is just incredible because we have this, you know, this mix, you know, pot of different cultures that are infused in our food here in Hawaii, bro. That is, I would say, you know what I mean? I know a lot of people just want to get onto that beach and it's like, let me get some suntan, let me get into that water, and that's all good and well. But, you know, go up to Waimea Valley, and but that's nice stuff to do.
Yeah, rich history there too.
Yeah. So, you know, take the time to kind of, you know, go over your game plan. You know, even as locals, we like to go to believe it or not, the Polynesian Cultural Center too.
Okay, yeah.
I love to spend the day. Sometimes we go, you know, maybe we want to go for a year and then we go visit all the villages. And then you get that real quick injection of what, you know what I mean? What all the different Polynesian islands are, you know, and how they're our brothers and sisters and how we are all kind of connected, you know. So
that perspective.
good
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
but good stuff. And stop by one of those stands on the side of the road that sells ice cold coconuts or pineapples and stuff. Get some.
Yep,
Even
yep.
the locals do that. Even the locals do that. So, you know.
Kelly Boy, oh man, I could keep talking to you forever, man.
And I could too. I'm
This is great.
Portuguese.
I have family who are Portuguese as well. Yes.
Yes.
Kelly Boy, this has been real. I truly appreciate you and everything that you've done.
Oh, thank you, Brian. Anytime you need me, you know, anytime, I'm good.
Well, a big mahalo to Kelly Boy for his time and coming on today. My biggest key takeaway was not only is Kapena an amazing band, you can tell that they're so genuine. The heart behind Kapena is so real. The perspective, no matter what we go through, we always have music, and to always do our best to look on the bright side of things. And I just love that outlook that Kelly Boy and his whole family just portray. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this conversation with Kelly Boy, I would just love to hear your feedback too. Drop a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, and I just totally appreciate that. But until next time, be well. Aloha.
Mahalo for listening to this episode of Hawaii's Best. To stay up to date on future episodes, please subscribe and visit us at hawaiisbesttravel.com.